Hello and welcome to the Large and Unnecessary First Player Token podcast. This is episode 113. My name is Chris.
My name is David.
I'm Pawel.
Hi Pawel.
Hi Chris.
Shall we do the internet joke again? Dave loves the internet joke. Pawel's joining us through the internet.
Yay!
What's it like in there? Ha ha ha.
Okay, we're good at this, yes.
Yeah, we're good at this. We're good at this joke. Right, well, we're here to talk about video games this week. Pawel's stuck at work, so if you hear anybody knocking on his door and him then just shouting in Polish at people, then don't worry about it. I'm assuming that all your staff are Polish, Pawel. Or that you just shout at them in Polish to confuse them.
No, I mean, you've pretty much Brexited most of Poles away.
I haven't, personally.
I don't know, I mean, you're like British and stuff.
Isn't today supposed to be Brexit Day, actually?
There you go, yes it is.
Is it? It is today, wasn't it?
Yes, today is Farage's Independence Day.
But it's not happened.
No, well, unfortunately Farage happened, but there you go.
Because people may be wondering if, because you're joining us on Skype, that you may be back in Poland.
This was part of the negotiations, yes.
What, to get you out?
Yeah.
So look, we'll sign up to anything as long as Pawel leaves. If you also hear any other weird noises in this episode, it's because Dave's eating a bag of chips like a professional.
I'm really well prepared.
This is Pawel's fault. I'm having a haggis supper, okay? And I'm not ashamed of it.
Can I also, for our listeners, can I also share a bit of a sort of culture tidbit? If a person from Edinburgh says supper, it essentially just means the meal
chips.
is twice the size.
No, it just means
like
with chips, Pawel.
With chips.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Because you can have a single haggis as well.
Yeah, single haggis is just the haggis on its own, as you might expect from the name.
Yeah.
Haggis supper is the supper part's the chips.
Also,
that's what makes it a meal.
Yeah, exactly. That's the vegetables.
You guys actually go for haggis out of your free will, yes? Or are you...
here we go. There's Pawel with his food snobbery again.
Oh yeah, I noticed that you can't come round here to join us today for this episode, but you did go for a 5-star lunch today.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I'm stuck at work. The lunch
Already, because you were eating. Right, anyway, we should probably get on with talking about some video games here. Might as well. Not just ripping the piss out of each other. Okay, well, Dave, we're going to have to interrupt your chip eating because you said you were going to go first here.
Right, hang on.
Yeah, let's get this wrapper.
It's very noisy, so we put it to one side.
Don't touch
such professionals.
Squeeze your fingers.
We're such professionals. Okay, Dave, what have you been playing?
I have been playing Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice.
Yeah.
By From Software. That is the game that I have been playing this week.
I have a lot of questions.
Good, because unfortunately, Pawel, I'm not fully prepared for this, because I did have some time allocated in which to finalise what I was going to say about this game, but instead, because you're such a bellend, I had to freaking spend that time collecting all my cables and microphones and everything together, resetting my Skype password to get back into Skype. Pawel is a bellend is now my Skype password with some additional bits added to it.
It's now also the episode title.
Oh, excellent! It's going to be my bit of internet famedom.
Probably not, actually. That may be a bit too offensive.
I don't know. Most people don't
just
know what a bellend is.
Work it in there somehow.
I'm going to we should call it Pawel as a bellend and then use the Facebook advertising thing to target it at people called Pawel. That might just work.
Oof.
Anyway.
I'm not sure if this is the sort of fame we want.
Let's talk about video games, please.
Yeah, so, I mean, as we've mentioned before, the way I sort of prepare for doing these reviews is I write down all the little thoughts and ideas, things that pop out while I play the game on a big piece of paper in no particular order. And then once I've got time, I go back and rearrange those so that it forms a sort of coherent, review or whatever.
That's way more work than I put into it.
Yeah. Well, I haven't had time to do the second part, so what I'm going to do instead is just read you what I've got written here. It'll be a sort of deconstructed review, if you like. So just to go through my list, I've got Backstab Chicken. Everyone is everyone is bigger than you. Dull protagonist. Surfboards. Never enter the zone. Lacking vital spark. Ryu Hayabusa. Helicopter. Hostile work environment. Neo Onimusha. You die a lot more than twice. And no tension, just a chore.
Okay.
Damn.
I would say,
so,
like...
So I think we
well,
can
I mean, a bit of a spoiler, like, that last one, if you want to skip the review, that's basically my conclusion about Sekiro, and if you've sort of heard me talk about games before, you can probably extrapolate from that what I'm going to say about
I have heard you talk about games before.
I think this is mostly your conclusion about most games, isn't it?
No, that's not true.
Or is it just the triple A's?
No.
Or is it just games with chests then?
Maybe a little bit, but... Well, I mean, for those that don't know, Sekiro is a what do you call it? Sort of action adventure fighting game by From Software, who are famous for making the Armored Core series, King's Field, Chrome Hounds, Atogi, Myth of Demons, and some other games as well.
You're such a troll, man. Honestly.
Yeah, see, what I've done there is I've left out the most famous game that they've made for comic effect. That's the one joke that I wrote for this review. There won't be any others because I didn't have time to write them.
Oh, and why is that? Oh yeah, wait, we've mentioned that before.
Yeah, they also...
Dave, you're so bitter. I've never heard you being this bitter at Pawel before.
It's a good thing I'm not there, because I'd be slapped. Can I just ask? Because I'm gonna destroy your joke by saying I've heard this game as a mixture of Souls series and Tenchu. Is that in any way close to the truth?
Well, to an extent, it depends what you mean. I mean, it's like Tenchu in the sense that you are a ninja in this game, and I mean, being a ninja, that's already, that sets any game off to a good start.
No, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the 80s. And everyone
and that's obviously got something to do with ninjas.
Well, the 80s was peak ninja, I think. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, first we just had ninjas, then there was a ninja in America. Then they were on surfboards, playing electric guitars, they were in space. I mean, there was no game that could not be improved by the addition of ninjas. And in many cases, they were doing all of these things at the same time.
So what you're saying is that zombies are essentially the 21st century's equivalent of ninjas.
Well, maybe. I don't know. Like they're definitely not as cool or interesting. I mean, like you don't see zombies in space on surfboards playing electric guitars.
Not yet.
No. I mean, maybe maybe one day. But I mean, what kind? Sorry, pop quiz. Like, what kind of electric guitar would a ninja play, Chris? What do you think?
Oh, a ninja?
Yeah, what kind of in the 80s?
Ooh, it's got to be...
It has to be something stealthy.
Yeah, it's got to be... I was just thinking, what's the stealthiest guitar? What are those guitars that are entirely see-through?
No, it's... I know what you're thinking of. They're incredibly heavy, those guitars.
Are they?
They're made of like sort of Lexan or some sort of acrylic type thing. They weigh a ton. No, it's a Gibson Flying V. See, that's because Chris didn't grow up in the 80s like I did, so that's how he doesn't know the answer to that question.
I was born in the 80s.
Shame on you, man.
Shame for being born in the 80s.
You've missed all that music and stuff.
God, I'm like a generation behind you guys. That's exciting. Especially you,
Yes,
Pawel.
You'll be looking at our graves all spitting and stuff.
Laughing.
It's okay.
Mate, laughing.
Yeah, so... Yeah. You do play as a ninja in this game. He's called Okami.
Wait. Go back.
Wait, what?
Why would it be a flying V?
It just is, because it was the coolest guitar in the 80s.
Oh, right.
When you're on a surfboard, you want an appropriate guitar when you're ninjaing across the bay in California.
That doesn't seem very ninja-like to me. I mean, maybe it's more aerodynamic.
You had to be there.
I think Chris has just essentially confirmed the fact that he's not grown up in the 80s.
It made more sense at the time. But this was an exciting thing. And one of the biggest things that I don't like about this game is that, as I said before, it has a very dull protagonist. I mean, he's about as dull as he can be. You just ninja about. He talks a lot about adhering to the iron code of ninjutsu. Adhering to the iron code of ninjutsu is not something you actually do during the game. It's just something that's referred to during cutscenes. So, yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a letdown in that front. I mean, you can do all the sort of normal ninja-y things, but it's not a stealth game. It just has, you have the option to be stealthy. Whereas in like Dark Souls, you might run past all the guys.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can stealth past them. I mean, that's maybe a bit of a misrepresentation. It is a tool at your disposal. Sometimes there's a lot of dudes and you can thin them out a bit if you have the patience to do so, rather than going and taking them all on at one time. Sorry, I mean, it is set in, I should have made clear, it's set in feudal Japan. It's not modern day ninjaing. And that's a big part of it. But it's like this is why I wrote down Neo and Onimusha. It's just not quite as exciting as it could be. If you've played a lot of these other games, they often have supernatural elements. So quite often, you're not just fighting against human opponents. There's other things going on. So in a way, it's cool. I mean, you're encountering all these guys, and they have all this sort of armor and everything. It's not like very staid and period correct. Everything is grotesque and over the top and overemphasized. That's why I've written everyone is bigger than you, because it definitely has that thing where have you ever watched Fist of the North Star?
Oh, a long time ago.
Yeah, so like all the enemies that Ken is up against, they're all like big massive dudes.
Yeah.
And then they have the boss, and he's like 5 times the size of them. And so there is a bit of that. The sort of more impressive a character is in this game, the like bigger they are. Even like there's a guy who rides on a horse, and his horse is freaking monstrous. It's like double the size of a real life horse. So it does have that going on for it.
My favourite memory of Fist of the North Star wasn't actually like anything that I watched. It was the arcade machine. Did anybody ever see this arcade machine for Fist of the North Star? Pavel?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay, so they had one of these arcade machines in Edinburgh, and one of these in the arcade places, and my mate's brother nearly got thrown out of the arcade because it's one of these machines that has like punch pads on it. So like when you're fighting enemies,
right,
the punch pads come out and you have to hit them like as fast as you can, basically. But when you do the whole whatever the hell it is, when he does the million punches thing,
yeah, I can't remember.
They just come out one after another as fast as hell, and you have to just do the and they were coming out so fast, and he was hitting them that hard that the whole machine started to shake, that it then rocked forward and the plug came out. He very nearly got thrown out of the arcade for being too enthusiastic.
Oh,
beautiful!
See, that sounds like a great game.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, see, that's what Sekiro is lacking. It's lacking in the fun side of things, even if everyone is bigger than you. It's a weird. It's not just. There's another odd thing going on. Like even the normal characters are bigger than your guy. Like right. I don't know why. Like even the sort of lowliest peon, with a little spear patrolling, is just that little bit larger. It's not just taller. Like there's something weird going on with the models. Like your character model is just like 20% smaller than all the other character models for no apparent reason.
Well, I suppose you're a ninja, so you should be able to fit into all the small, tiny places.
Yeah.
A bit like a cat or a rat or something.
Yeah, I mean, you are a ninja, but I mean, you're not like you're just not a cool ninja. See, this is why I wrote down.
There's no supernatural elements, and if I'm not mistaken, this dude's supposed to have some form of prosthetics and some form of magic umbrella that deflects blows and all sorts of.
If only he had a magic umbrella that deflects blows. No, he does have a prosthetic arm. and you use that to grapple around. There's a lot of quite a bit of vertical movement in this. So it is cool. You're doing the right things. It's all there. You're up on the roofs. They have all the correct tiles with the little stones on them. Pawel, have you been to Himeji Castle or any of the?
I have been to Himeji.
Right,
it was awesome.
Yeah, like Himeji's a genuine period castle, like one that didn't get destroyed during the war and subsequently rebuilt out of concrete.
And it's impressive as shit, honestly.
Yeah,
it just leaves you breathless.
And all that stuff is there, but like times 20, like bigger and bigger. And you're running around on the rooftops, dropping down on people. You're doing the right kind of things. You just don't feel that cool doing it. I don't think. Like, this is why I wrote down Ryu Hayabusa, who some people know as the main character from the Shinobi series. And in particular, a game that I really, really, really liked on the PlayStation 2 was Shinobi 2, which was, it's not really a sequel to Shinobi, it's just another, game.
Using, it's a ninja game.
Yeah, using the franchise. And it was just so amazing. Like, he has this red scarf that's kind of wrapped around his mouth, and it's really long. So when you run, this red scarf trails behind you when you're doing your special ninja run, and you can jump and run along the walls. He just sticks onto them, and so you run and you jump from wall to wall, and you've got this big trailing scarf behind you. And it had this amazing mechanic, which I've written down as slice, pause, pose, pieces, where
okay,
where you would kill enemies, but when you killed them, they wouldn't just fall dead on the ground. They'd kind of freeze. And then if you killed another enemy within a short time period, they would freeze as well. And you could build this combo up until you got to the max, which was 8 or something. And then when that happened, he would do this sort of cool pose where he'd crouch down on the ground and spin his sword round. And all the enemies who were in the background, who were frozen, would just fall to the ground, sliced into lots of little bits. And you would just do this over and over. It was the way, the sort of key mechanic of the game. And it never got boring. It was so freaking cool. and Sekiro is just a little bit lacking in that. Oh yeah, and Helicopter is the first boss is a helicopter, which is... And there are so many boss fights in Sekiro, and they're good. They're not well, they're not all good. Some of them are terrible, but that's how boss fight games go. But some of them are really cool, and they're cool from a technical sense, maybe. I don't know, but none of them are a helicopter. It was a Russian attack gunship that flew around, and to be, that's just way more interesting. I don't know why. The combat is interesting. There's Pawel, you're talking about deflecting with an umbrella. Well, it's not with an umbrella. Well, maybe the umbrella comes later. I haven't finished the game. It's possible. It may be an add-on for your prosthetic arm. There is a lot of blocking, so you trade blows, and that's quite cool. Especially when you're facing off against the sort of humanoid bosses. There are you do fight a giant bull at one point, and obviously you're not really trading blows with a giant bull, but when you fight another samurai, there's mid bosses who are just sergeants or lieutenants in the army, and they've got all this sort of fancy armor on, and usually it's a straight up fight with those guys. They'll be armed with a different weapons, and they'll have slightly different movesets, but basically it comes down to dodging, blocking, jumping, and then hitting them when you've got the space to do so. And it does create this kind of dual feeling when you're up against those. And again, it is cool, but it's not what I wrote is you never get that, you never enter the zone. So you never get that thing where when you're playing a game like maybe a rhythm action game, where it's kind of semi-random, so you can't learn it, you just have to react. And eventually you get so good at it that it just becomes programmed into you, and you kind of go into this trance when you're doing it. And there's other games where you can have that, Rockstar Table Tennis was like that, and it used to do a thing where the actual game would slow down. It could go, it didn't slow down, but the music faded out to kind of give you the feeling that you'd entered the thing.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and for me, I've got Prince of Persia, the original Prince of Persia. Even that game had that, and it was very simple combat mechanics, just attack, block, parry, jump backwards. But even that had the thing where you felt like you were really into it. And maybe I'm just not very good at the game, but I never quite get that in Sekiro. I'm just like...
Have you played the Souls games at all?
Yeah. But the combat is very different.
Is it?
Yeah. I know you can deflect in the Souls games, but it's not as necessarily as big a part
I suppose
as it is in
Souls
Sekiro.
you mostly just roll around, yeah?
Yes. And the combat is a little bit slower in the Souls games, like deliberately. It's more ponderous and heavy. It has the stamina system, which is not there. I mean, they've changed up a lot of things in the game. So instead of the stamina system, there's a different system in it called pose, where if you take enough hits, eventually your guard will break. But you can also do this to the enemies, and that's quite interesting. You can, if you use different techniques, you'll do different amounts of like pose. I'm not sure if it's actually called pose, but whatever. Block damage, and then if you get them all the way up to the limit for their pose, then you can do this kind of death blow. It's called, which may kill them outright, even if you've not reduced their health all the way to 0. Some harder enemies you have to do this a couple of times. So it is different. I mean, that's what they set out to do. I mean, a lot of people will be asking, is it different from the Souls games? And yes, it is. It reuses a lot of elements from them, but it's definitely a different game. They've definitely achieved that. Is it better than them? I don't... Well, maybe for some people. I mean, obviously some people will get a lot out of this game, but to me, it's a little bit lacking. It's good. It's technically very good. It's visually excellent, and it's just lacking that little bit of interest that you would get from playing other games.
Would you have enjoyed it if your character was tall enough?
Well, possibly. I mean,
there we go.
Yeah, I mean, it's not.
We have unlocked the entire review here.
You know what it's like when you played Dark Souls, or if you played Demon Souls for the first time. When you played that game, you were like, here's something that's a little bit different. They had a theme, and the theme was despair, and it was not like playing other games. It had new mechanics, and it had just a different feel to it. Yeah. It was a very, very interesting game to play. And you're not really getting that with Sekiro. Like, it's good and it has different things in it, but you can play Devil May Cry. I haven't played Neo, but I'm sure Sekiro's better than Neo. But there's, you know what I mean? They're kind of similar, I think. Yeah. So it's not. It's a good game. It's, as I said, it's lacking that sort of soul. Weirdly, like, if you like, just that little thing to. And I feel bad saying this because so much love has clearly gone into this. I mean, a lot of work has gone into it, and they've tried really, really hard, and they've not failed. It's great. I'm sure it's sold really well, and loads of people, I'm sure it's reviewed really well. People are loving it. But to me, like, I go into a new area in Sekiro, and visually I'm like, oh, it's a cool new area, but I'm not really interested to go through it, because I know I'm just going to encounter lots of enemies that I can sneak around and backstab, or, have combat with, and a million little gluey things that I can pick up, most of which are like consumables, that it's just hard to get excited about that. And then I know at the end there'll be a boss fight of some sort.
So is it the repetition then that's boring you?
Maybe. It's like when we played Hollow Knight.
Yeah.
Right, Hollow Knight was a good game, and like there's some definite similarities between these two games. I mean, Hollow Knight is more of a Metroidvania than Sekiro is. I mean, there's a lot of backtracking, and you need to find one thing to get to a different place, and so on in Sekiro. And there's a lot of exploration. You can, especially with the grappling, you can get to like little ledges, and you might find access to a new area. You might find something to pick up. That's in Hollow Knight too, but Hollow Knight is way better. It's just much more interesting. The bosses are more interesting. The game has its own sort of unique feel and look to it. It has its atmosphere that I think Sekiro is just a little bit lacking in, and it's a shame. But you can backstab a chicken. That was the first thing I said.
Oh, yeah, so we've gone full circle.
That does redeem it somewhat.
I mean, any game where you can do something to a chicken just seems to be fun.
Yeah.
It's like Skyrim. The first thing you do, you punch a chicken.
Well, I was genuinely pleased. Also, the chickens are huge. It's not just a...
Oh, you're joking. Are they actually huge chickens?
Yes.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Are you just a tiny man? It's not like everything's huge. You're just a tiny, tiny man.
It's possible.
Okay, well... Yeah. I think we need to move on to something else now, Dave.
Okay.
I think you've put your point across nicely there. So Sekiro, that's From Software?
From Software, yeah.
And it just came out, like, what?
A couple of weeks ago.
2-3 weeks ago, yeah, something like that. Okay, right, we're going to move on to Pawel now, because Pawel may have to run away and do some work soon. So, Pawel.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hi.
You want to tell us what you've been playing?
Might as well. I've been playing Oxygen Not Included by Clay Entertainment, and I am happy to report that there is no tiny ninjas with prosthetic arms who are mildly interesting. In fact, I don't think there's any such profession in this particular game. There's plenty of different professions. But let's see. There we go. Oxygen Not Included is made by the same team that have also made Don't Starve, or possibly Don't Starve Together, as well as Invisible Ink, which I've played in the past and enjoyed greatly. Now, I think you guys mentioned something about Faster Than Light, possibly. That's not Clay Entertainment, but I think there might be some similarities, at least visual, if not conceptual. Anyway, so this is a sort of colony survival simulation game. I'm not sure if that's a genre, but there you go.
Yes, it definitely is.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
It's like like RimWorld. Is that in that same vein?
It's a RimWorld-like game, you could say. I think, even though I've not played RimWorld, I've seen enough, screenshots, and I've heard you guys talk about RimWorld quite extensively a good few episodes ago. Was it like 100 episodes ago?
Well, possibly.
Yeah,
it was a good 2 or 3 years ago now.
Yeah, right. Well, okay. So this one, this is my first and so far probably only excursion into this particular genre, and I was utterly and wholly overwhelmed by all the factors involved, and I couldn't believe that I've not really lost yet. You know how you lose in games? You essentially make a mistake and you die, yeah? Or you build something correctly and you bankrupt, or you can see your colony go to ruins or something. You're essentially punished for mistakes. I don't fully understand, and this is probably a part of my lack of any actual ability to play this game. I don't understand to what extent you're being punished, and Oxygen Not Included. It feels like the game is designed to cause chaos, and you're expected to survive in an environment that's never fully optimal, which is probably actually a really good design. And I must say, I've been enjoying Oxygen Not Included immensely, but slightly from a masochistic point of view, because I'm terrible at it. And normally when I'm terrible at a game, I get discouraged, or I try to learn to play it better. And and in the case of Oxygen Not Included, I've restarted this game so many times, each time obviously trying to do things either differently or learning on my previous mistakes. And I keep discovering new things, and I keep learning, and I keep getting just overwhelmed by the number of factors you have to sort of remember. You start this game, I should probably mention that, just like in RimWorld, you look at your colony from sideways, and the game.
Can I just jump in there, Pawel? Because if this is your sort of first trip into this kind of game, I would say that's a normal experience for you to have to restart the game so many times and try and fix your mistakes from the previous one, because these games are definitely like big learning curve games, these colony survival things, because you don't really know what you're expecting when you go it. Like, you don't know what's going to happen, and you start to learn things, and it can be very harsh.
Yeah, I mean it's humbling, because if you play an action adventure game and you know that you can pick up an item that's glistering somewhere in the grass, and you pick it up and you can check on your map. Oh, you've collected all the collectibles. You can go forth, and that's the sort of completionist I am. Now, if I'm playing this game and after 5 or 10 hours, I realize that essentially everything I've designed, or I thought I designed, is in shambles. Not a single thing I thought I'm doing right is actually optimal. This thing is pretty much shaking and just about collapsing, and I don't even fully comprehend how to do it better. And yet I just keep, returning to it, because it's just, it's fun. There's just like in Don't Starve, the game has a very sort of sleek, very cartoony, but very funny and charming sort of artwork, also art style, with your characters, with these very sort of expressive faces, a lot of I suppose dark humor sort of things. But underneath a fairly pleasant graphics and animation, you have I'm not going to say it's a cruel game, because if a cruel game would punish you straight away if you make a mistake, and this game seems to revel in the fact that you're just digging a slightly bigger hole for yourself, and you can keep digging it for hours, realizing that it's getting worse and worse, and yet you can still keep digging an even bigger hole for yourself. It's a new experience for me. It never goes right, but it never ends bad. It's just havoc, mayhem, which again, I mean, I suppose even the title might just suggest that. So what
are you actually doing in the game, though, Pawel?
Right. Yeah.
What are you constructing? What are you up against?
You start the game with essentially a single, I suppose, item or object or building, let's call it, which is a printer for your duplicants. Now, duplicants are essentially your colonists or settlers. Yeah. All the levels in the game are obviously procedurally generated, and to some extent, or to a large extent, your duplicants are also procedurally generated. You can't really design them. You can keep re-rolling them before you start the game, I suppose. And they will have...
This is pretty standard.
They will have... Each duplicant has 10 attributes, 3 traits I see here, 3 additional traits, a lot of different traits, yeah? So they obviously better at some things, worse at other things, react to various aspects of your colony in different ways. And that's that. You're going to have a brief tutorial, but as you said, Chris, this is a very steep, very, very sort of difficult learning curve, and before you know it, days are passing. The first 3 games I've played, my duplicants were really struggling with going for their number 1 and number 2 because I didn't have a toilet. I had plenty of other stuff, and it took me a while to realize how much they're suffering. I honestly felt bad for them, because again, those cute faces are so expressive when they're unhappy or when they're struggling. But yeah, in this game, even oxygen, as the title suggests, is a problem, and quite often as you dig through those tunnels and make them bigger, you're just going to run out of oxygen. Obviously, you're building your oxygen sort of making machines, which have to be fed with various fuels that you're getting from expanding your base. Essentially, every single action you make has various consequences and is part of the overall sort of microcosm economy of this procedurally generated map. And it's just, I'm sweating just thinking about it. There's an element of claustrophobia there, because And that's just horrifying. I don't know who came up with this, but I mean, I was choking just trying to find a way out of this. As you expand your tunnels, your oxygen pressure in the existing interconnected channels may drop if there was no gases in the new chamber that you've just dug your way into, okay? Or there may have been other gases like chlorine, whatever, which you might want not to introduce in your sort of overall environment. Yeah, there is maximum pressure that all these mixed up gases can have. I've no even idea how to decrease that pressure. So even when some parts of my base essentially do not have oxygen, I'm not able to create more simply because there is already gas there. And even coming up to terms with how to build piping in order to move these gases from here to there is currently beyond me, and I've tried so many times. You have to feed those poor buggers. Some of them are more resistant to disease. Some of them every day are dropping in health, and I am just terrified to eventually see some of them dead. But I don't even know yet how to actually keep my colony hygienic. And as you go through
the days,
days,
use some of that chlorine?
Yeah. Just put it in a pool of water and chuck them in.
I don't know. I suppose maybe you could. I don't know. This game has so much stuff there. Obviously, you research all sorts of different technologies. You refine all these items into, as in materials and elements, into different elements. Each of those can be and has to be used as fuel in various other items. Every couple of days, you get additional duplicant. That's just a random person that can have different stress responses, different expectations as to what sort of decor you should have in your base, and whether they're okay eating your rubbish food or whether they need something decent.
Pavel, this is all the fun of colony simulators. You just have all these people that come in and they have different ideas and different personalities and everything, and you cannot keep them all happy.
Well, yeah, and again, I'm having lots of fun. I'm just realizing that all the games that make you know the get good games, let's say Souls games, for example. Souls game is a get good game. You keep playing, you keep losing, and you know that you've lost because you've just been killed. You respawn wherever, pick up your souls, and try to roll around, and maybe finally, after the 10th attempt or 20th, defeat a particularly annoying boss. Whereas in here, you spend 3 days knowing that your colony is doomed and trying to learn from your examples as you sentence your duplicants to slow suffocation and death of various illnesses, diarrhea and vomiting, and you name it. I feel dirty playing this game because as much as I want to improve the quality of life of my duplicants, I'm just making it worse because I'm like, I'm going to dig out another tunnel for you guys and maybe pour some more fresh air there, and maybe we'll actually grow some crops there. But instead, they bloody choking there because there's no actual breathable air there. And then all my toilets are getting blocked, and I have to unblock them. And suddenly I realize that there is no air for my plants. And then I realize that stuff I have been digging is not usable as fertilizer. And then suddenly I also realize that some of my dudes are running around with jobs that I've assigned them because I thought they're good at them, but they also have too high stress levels, so they're unhappy. And it's just so stressful and amazing at the same time.
Right, breathe, Pavel.
Yes, oxygen is certainly included in some areas of this game, but again, it's because it's procedurally generated. Sometimes you'll find that you might be able to progress slightly further. Sometimes you won't. Then you'll make a mistake I've made, and you're going to go to YouTube to maybe answer some of your questions. You'll see these amazing bases that people have built. Yeah. And I'm like, how the hell has this
Pavel,
even happened?
Like, if you're playing one of these colony simulators and you don't think you're doing well, don't go to YouTube looking for answers because it'll just make you feel worse.
I mean,
because people are really good at. Some people are really, really good at these games.
I was digging tunnels, and trying to survive essentially, and praying for the diarrhea to go away. And then I go to YouTube, and people are essentially, I don't know, a few days further than I am, and and they don't even have any actual, I'm going to say, natural chambers. It's all human-built levels, and everything looks more like bloody XCOM. You remember the XCOM base, yeah, with all those chambers? Everything neatly planned out and working like a factory. I'm like, how the hell is that even possible in this game? I would have to demolish what I've done several times and redo it, and obviously you would run out of resources when you're doing this, because, I mean, even the simple fact that everything in this game is limited, because you're surrounded by what you have, your gases, you're walking on the ground that you have to eventually utilize for something. Every single thing you do is, I suppose there is a lesson in this. Yeah, nothing is what's the word? Infinite. Yes, every single element that surrounds you, you'll eventually use up. So you have to, think about how to plan out your colony and maybe save up some of those fossil fuels and stuff. Very stressful game, amazing game. I think it's actually still in early release, actually, but I've not seen a single issue with it. It felt like a very polished, very sort of complete game, terrifying in its scale and complexity. And I have to get good at it, and I just feel so sorry for my applicants all the time, honestly.
Can you remember the names of any of your little colonists?
Yeah, well, see, they call applicants because they sort of like clones. So depending on, I mean, they procedurally generated, but they
must have names, Pavel. Come on,
they're just numbers.
There's like
clone one.
10 or 12 or let's say 15 types of duplicants, and as you print them,
Pavel, do they have names?
They have, very strange names like Gossman and Nisbet and
well, yeah, so they have names then.
Nisbet isn't a strange name.
Yeah, Nisbet's a Scottish name. I'm pretty sure.
Nisbet is a very strange
Possibly
name.
Irish.
But my point is, you're gonna have, so in the description of Nisbet, you're gonna have like, this Nisbet likes to punch people to show her affection. Everyone's too afraid of her to tell her it hurts. Yeah. So you may have number of different
Nisbets. Agnes.
Agnes Nisbet.
And each Nisbet will have some similarities to other Nisbets.
So hang on, Pavel. Are you saying that Nisbet's like a class, or are you saying that Nisbet's a name? I'm confused now.
Nisbet seems to be a class, but
right.
But
So I still don't have an answer to the question. Do the colonists have names?
But so the default names are the class names, but you can
rename them. You can change them. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. I was just wondering, because sometimes you get like attached to your little people.
Oh yeah. I was actually going to bring that up as well. Like, because I was thinking when I played RimWorld, there was like, I had a colony that was going, and I played this game for days on end. And when one of the original colonists died, I had to go and have a lie down for half an hour because it was so distressing.
I during my attempt number 7, I had to, and this was my most successful attempt, I had this researcher who was doing amazing work for the colony, but unfortunately, day after day, his health was going down further and further, and I just could not, every single time he would go to the toilet, I would almost pray for him, and then he would emerge and vomit out. I don't know why he couldn't actually do it in the toilet, but fair enough. And I could see that it's just a matter of time. And every single time I just could not set up a proper grill to maybe attempt to make some proper food. So he kept eating those moldy sort of, I don't know, I'm making these blocks of algae essentially, and every single duplicant absolutely hates them. And I'm trying to cook something, but it's just difficult.
This sounds like you are a terrible colony manager to me.
I should probably not really be given this particular responsibility. Yeah. I should feel guilty by even trying. It's honestly, it's like
after the next World War, when we have to rebuild society, you're not in charge of anything. Okay, have we agreed on this?
I agree. Thank you so much for taking this off my shoulders.
We can just keep saying that you work in IT. People will understand.
Yes, please.
Okay, right. We are going to have to move on, though, Pavel. We've got another game to fit into this episode. I mean, you did talk at great length here without pausing. That was incredible.
Thank you.
I mean, I know you like to get into the the theming of a game and everything, but oxygen not included. You are still allowed to breathe, Pawel.
I don't know, this game tends to get very stressful when you're doing bad, because you can see all your bad decisions in front of you, and they, day after day, they're still bad decisions, and they're still there.
Okay, so who's that by again?
It's by Clay Entertainment. Well done, Clay Entertainment.
Oh yeah.
I'll keep playing this until I get better.
Yeah, it's Clay with a K, isn't it?
K-L-E-I.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not the moldable type.
Okay, right. Thank you, Pawel. I'm going to try and fit another game into this episode. So yes, I've been playing. It's actually Pawel. I've noticed that you played this as well, very, very briefly. I have no idea why you played this game. I'll be honest with you. 2 Point Hospital.
Oh yes, of course.
So 2 Point Hospital. Yes, you did say that you played about an hour of it or something like that.
Because that's the spiritual successor to Theme Hospital, isn't it?
Theme Hospital, yes, it is.
Yep.
And my God, what a spiritual successor it is. So the thing with 2 Point Hospital is you have to it's the same with Theme Hospital, you have to get past the sinister idea that people should pay for healthcare and that there are people that make a profit from it, i.e. you in this game. Because this is just it's a management game where you are managing a series of hospitals, not just one. There is a campaign thing in it. And the game, if you played... Dave, did you play Theme Hospital back in the day? You didn't.
I don't think so.
You didn't. So Theme Hospital was a game by Bullfrog, who back in the day were one of the best game design companies around, I think. They made the Syndicate series, Populous, loads of other stuff that just escaped me. But did they not do the Dungeon Keeper stuff, or Dungeon Master, or whatever it was?
Dungeon Keeper.
So yes, Bullfrog were very prominent back in the day. I don't know who they got swallowed up by.
Well, they went on to become Lionhead, didn't they?
Is that so they did? Yeah, because it's
Peter
Molyneux. Yeah, Peter Molyneux. That's right. Okay, so anyway, 2 Point Hospital is not made by Lionhead. It's made by 2 Point Studios, I think. So I get the feeling they going to set up a studio just to make this game. It all feels very familiar. This game, very, very familiar. To the point that if you've played Theme Hospital, as soon as you start playing this game, it is instantly recognisable. I'm pretty sure that the first hospital that you play in is very, very similar in the size and shape of it to the very first hospital that you play in Theme Hospital. And you get all the same rooms, so just to be clear what you're doing here, you're setting up sort of doctors, a hospital with GP surgeries, various treatment rooms, all sorts of kind of different diagnosis rooms and things. You need staff rooms, you need toilets, all that kind of thing. Just building this stuff up with your budget, and you will be diagnosing and treating a wide variety of wacky illnesses. I'm sorry to say that Bloaty Head hasn't made an appearance yet. I don't think that they've used any of the original Theme Hospital illnesses in this, but they have some very, very similar ones. Bloaty Head was one of my favourites. I mean, it was one of the first ones that you got in Theme Hospital, but you had to put a very specific machine in to pop the patient's head and then re-inflate it to a normal size. It was all just very, very silly. But I mean, I've written down some of the wacky illnesses I've come across so far. Misery guts, bed face, verbal diarrhea. You have Mockstar. Now, Mockstar's quite a funny one because it's just a bunch of people that come in dressed as Freddie Mercury and dancing about the place. You have to send them a psychiatrist to tell them to stop doing it. Lightheadedness. Can anybody guess what a person with lightheadedness looks like in this game? Pawel, you've played it, so don't use anything. Dave, go for it.
Person with lightheadedness.
Lightheadedness. What does a patient with lightheadedness look like in a wacky game?
Have they got a light bulb for a
head?
They
have a light bulb for a head, and you have to put a bit. I think this is the game's equivalent to Bloaty Head because you have to put a specific machine in, and it's cool. The animations and stuff in this game, it's all very quite wacky and comicky and stuff. The animations in this game are actually pretty cool with the little machines because you literally have to build this massive machine that unscrews the giant light bulb and then makes sort of scans a person's body and then makes a head for them and pops it onto their head to suit their body, and then right. you get your money for it and off they go. There's also another one which I did find very, very funny, and it was a an illness that I discovered today called Portishead. I'm just going to read the description to you. Portisheads affect both body and mind. Once thought to be caused by proximity to sea air, it is now known to be chiefly caused by living in Portishead. And that gets treated in the ward. Now, again, if you've played Theme Hospital, you'll know that you have to hire doctors, you have to hire nurses. Now, in Theme Hospital, the doctors could have sort of specialisations. They've gone a wee bit more in depth with it in 2 Point Hospital, to the point where, like, the doctors all have different traits, the nurses all have different traits, even your janitors and your assistants who can work as like receptionists, or they work in the little shops that you can set up and stuff like that. They'll all have traits that'll have, like, you know, the doctors might have like diagnosis bonus or treatment bonus. They might have like, well, we would call them skills actually, but they're traits. They might be like an entertainer, so like they make people happy around them, or they could be unhygienic, so they lower the hygiene rate in your hospital wherever they go. But what's cool about that is that you can give the doctors and nurses jobs in this game. So you can specifically tell them. So for example, if you have, and this has happened to me, where patients started being misdiagnosed in my hospital because one of my doctors who didn't have good diagnosis skills but had very good treatment skills was working in the GP's office. So you can tell him, you're not allowed to work in the GP's office anymore. You can just say, no, you're treatment only. And off he goes, and you'll only do that. It can cause some problems, as you can imagine, when your hospital starts getting bigger and you've just got bunches of doctors, and some of them are doing some jobs, some of them are doing other jobs, and then suddenly the GP's office has nobody in it because all the GPs are on a break. And there's a massive queue forming outside. So yeah, it's a wee bit more in depth with the staff management, and that's really good. I think it's added a new sort of a new thing to the game that Theme Hospital didn't have. As you play through, I mean, you're having to do all this stuff, like you have to like blueprint out the rooms. It's exactly the same as it is in Theme Hospital. Certain rooms have to have certain things in them, so your GP's office needs a desk for your GP to sit at. But you can add extra things into the rooms, like plants and filing cabinets, and that adds to the prestige of your room, and all of that will add to the rating of your hospital, basically. And as your hospital goes through ratings, you'll unlock new rooms and things like that, or you'll get bonuses of some sort for doing it. There's also another currency in the game. So you have your normal money, which you're spending, but there's also something called kudosh, which is just, you know, a pretty bad pun, but kudosh. You earn that by like getting achievements, essentially. So your hospital rating, as it goes up, you'll earn kudosh for that. There's also an end of year award ceremony where you're basically judged against rival hospitals, and you can have like Doctor of the Year and stuff like that, or having no deaths. I've only ever had that once. And you'll earn kudosh for getting those awards. And you use that kudosh to like unlock other specific items. So like I've unlocked an arcade machine that I can stick in a sort of waiting area, and that keeps the patients entertained, and the staff entertained sometimes as well, just depending on what they're doing. Because the patients all have, I mean, think of it very much like a sort of theme park thing, where they all have these little bars that are like, here's his happiness, you know, here's how healthy he is, that sort of thing. Here's how hungry he is. You have to put food machines in and things
just
like
about
that.
To ask that.
Yeah.
Can you put vending machines in?
You have to put vending machines in. And I unlocked the salty snacks vending machine, which makes them, just like in Theme Park, adding all the salt to the chips, makes the people that eat the salty snacks very thirsty, so then they go and buy stuff from your other vending machines as well. You know, slightly sinister, I suppose. Why are you doing this to patients in your hospital, you might ask? It's just a game. Like I say, if you've played Theme Hospital, it's all going to feel very familiar to you, and you know, they've done a very, very, very good job at just making a proper spiritual successor to the game and modernising it a bit. But I mean, I was instantly back in that sort of, you know, 20 years ago or whatever, however long it was that Theme Hospital came out. Was that late 90s maybe? Mid to late 90s. I think, because would they not come out in the PS1 as well, Theme Hospital?
Oh, I don't know. I can't remember.
I think it was around about that time. It's maybe mid to late 90s anyway. So yeah, it's just
Theme Hospital did come out on PlayStation, yes, and
is that what you played it on?
Portable as well. I think so, possibly. It was released in 1997.
1987, yeah. So that sounds about right. So that's 22 years ago now. Jesus. But I was instantly transported back to that sort of that time, you know, when I'm sitting in front of the very first PC that my family had, sort of thing, and playing this ridiculous game about stupid illnesses and like light-hearted comedy. You know, that's all it was. You still have the English woman making announcements. You remember that, Pawel, in Theme Hospital? And she would just make ridiculous, stupid announcements, like patients are reminded not to die in the corridors and stuff like that. You know,
see, but that's exactly the reason why I've picked up this game for the comedy elements and for all those wacky illnesses.
And it's all still there.
It definitely is. But it's another of those games that I have to actually, you know, play enough to maybe be able to control it, because when I've played it for the first time, and I think I was watching something on the telly and playing it, so I didn't focus properly on it.
Yeah, I noticed you didn't do very well in that first hospital.
No, I didn't.
You can see what your friends have done.
All right. I remember that I was sort of trying to focus on building rooms and designing how things should like which bench should go where. And at some point I realized, I have plenty of actual sick people in the hospital, and I've not actually paid attention to all the humor element, as in what sort of funny illnesses they have and funny treatments that can help them. And obviously the meat of this game is having, you know, a proper laugh at those.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, the game has a perfect balance of just like stupidity and actual like gameplay. Because part of the challenge in this game is planning your hospital efficiently, because you have to make like sort of blueprint your rooms, but you have to sort of try and get the balance between making the rooms a reasonable size so that your staff and the patients aren't unhappy, like cramped in these little rooms, because they do get unhappy about these things.
Yep.
But at the same time, making sure that you have enough space in this limited-sized hospital that you have to actually get enough treatment rooms and diagnosis rooms and all those kind of things in there. And that's kind of where the game always was in Theme Hospital. That and having the right staff. That was the sort of balancing of the game, and it's all there again. They've managed to get that quite right. One of the things I will say is that I've not had any issues with money so far in this game. I just make a fortune. And I don't know if that's just because, having played Theme Hospital, I already knew what I needed to do. Like in terms of like make that doctor surgery big enough or whatever, you know. So like I've never had any issues with cash flow.
Yeah, I've not played it long enough to even touch this, you know, particular challenge, but I don't imagine it would be. It's really, unless you have to really correct every single decision you make and rebuild rooms and stuff like this, I don't imagine this would be a problem. Although I think there are some sort of I think quarantine situations in 2 Point Hospital where things can really go badly.
Well, you can get I don't know about quarantine. I think in Theme Hospital that maybe did happen. I can't remember. But there's an emergency. There's emergency things happen, and this happened in Theme Hospital as well. In 2 Point Hospital, this happens where you're asked if you want to try and take on an emergency, and it can be like 7 or 8. Well, somewhere I think I've seen like 5's the lowest number, possibly 4, 4 up to 8 so far. I've seen of people with all the same illness that come into your hospital, and you have to cure them all in a certain amount of time.
Yep.
And
so I had 5 grey anatomy people. Now, grey anatomy people have to, so they have to be treated with.
I haven't seen that one.
The treatment is called chromotherapy, and I suppose you just have to give them back their colours. But
this sounds similar to the invisibility illness in Theme Hospital.
Yeah,
It's just a pair of floating glasses and a hat just walking about the hospital.
That's the classic one, exactly. But, you know, I wasn't even prepared. I don't think I've actually researched that one yet when they got to me.
Yeah, I've not seen that, Pawel. So, I mean, that's interesting because you've only played the first hospital. So, I don't know if like the illnesses might just be kind of random then. I don't know.
Maybe
I don't think they are, actually.
Oh, so
it would mess with the progress of the campaign.
Okay. Well, that's certainly interesting.
The emergencies are fun. That's an interesting thing to just pile onto yourself as a bit of stress. It's just to make sure that you can try and cure all these people. One other thing I'll say, that when people die in in 2 Point Hospital, they can turn into ghosts. and you have to have a janitor who has the ghost like getting rid of ghosts ability. I don't know what they call it.
Exorcism.
It's not exorcism. It's got a name, but I can't remember what it is. Possibly ghost busting. But he literally just walks up to them with like a little dust buster and sucks them into the vacuum. But if you don't get rid of these ghosts, they literally just wander about your hospital, terrifying people. Which is quite fun. One thing I haven't seen so far, which was in Team Hospital and was a big part of Team Hospital, was rats. Do you remember the rats in Team Hospital, Pavel?
Yeah.
You had to literally shoot them with your cursor.
I remember that.
I haven't seen that in 2 Point Hospital. I don't know if that's going to be a feature at some point, but haven't seen them. I mean, I think a lot of people found it annoying in Team Hospital, though, because it was just a distraction.
It does sound like a rather mechanic of the time.
Yeah.
It's like, you've got a mouse pointer.
It kept a score, though.
You need things like this in colony builders and city builders, because like you get the same thing in Anno series. You're obviously designing your cities, but you also have from time to time various crises that you have to focus on, and you get various sort of randomly appearing collectibles that you have to click on as you're otherwise busy building a city. It introduces additional, I suppose, things to entertain yourself with as you're going through a fairly linear experience of designing and building and managing a building in this case, or a city in case of Anno. But it's the same sort of thing. You don't want your gameplay to be the same all the time. That's where the emergencies come in, and they're very entertaining, but they're difficult.
Yeah. So far, 2 Point Hospital, I'm absolutely loving this game. It's another blast from the past, and I seem to be doing a lot of these playing remakes from my childhood.
I was about to say this. Did you not do the one that was basically Dungeon Keeper?
Which one was that? Oh god, I can't remember.
Yeah, well, a couple of episodes ago
I can't remember what it was called, but you definitely spoke about this game is basically Dungeon Keeper, but pretty much exactly the same.
Oh god, I'm trying to figure out what that is. Oh no, Graveyard Keeper.
No.
Reliving your childhood then?
Yeah, I mean, I am having a midlife crisis. I mean, I'm not going to. But no, I played Road Redemption. That was like Road Rash.
Before that.
Oh, of course.
But that's another one though. Like,
yep.
But I assume the answer to this is no. But are there no interstaff romances going on in the hospital?
Well, see, the thing is that one of the traits that can come up in your characters or your staff even is that they are hopeless romantics and they think that their life is a rom-com. So I think these kind of things might happen in this game. Sorry, I'm flicking back through my notes. I'm trying to find what game it was you're talking about. But
War for the Overlord?
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. You're right. Aye, sorry. Aye, obviously that game. You know what? You said Dungeon Keeper, and I was thinking of Dungeon Master. I don't know why.
What's Dungeon Master? Like, not Patrick Stewart.
That was a game in the Super Nintendo that I played, which was one of the original, like, well, not one of the original, but it was a bit like, like Wizardry.
Right.
Where you had a party of 4 and you would go through a dungeon. But it was very popular. Sorry, I got confused. Yes, War for the Overworld is very much the Dungeon Keeper. I played a little bit more of that, but not got time to go back into that now. So yes, 2 Point Hospital. Pavel, you should keep playing this because it's just great fun. Like I'm trying to I'm doing the perfectionist thing. So I got 3 stars in the first hospital. I'm going for 3 stars in the second hospital, and I'm about to move on to the third hospital. But you unlock each hospital, I think, after you get 1 star in each hospital. So the next hospital unlocks after that, and you can get new things. So I want to see how where it goes with it. I want to see all these ridiculous illnesses that they've put in because it seems that there's no end to them.
Oh, I definitely want to see that as well, and I'll keep playing it. Yep.
Good stuff, right? Okay, so that's 2 Point Hospital. That is by 2 Point Studios, published by Sega. It came out in August 2018, so it's fairly new, I would say, past few months anyway.
I think there's already expansions coming up.
Yes, I did see that I think they're already out. There's other hospitals that you can play in and stuff like that.
Is there Diagnosis Murder?
I haven't seen that yet. Oh yeah, I should also say the soundtrack in this game is quite amusing. It's quite sort of light-hearted jazz, but there's like just idiotic stuff being said in between the songs by the DJs, and there was a weird advert for something that made me feel a bit freaked out, and I can't remember what it was, but it was just stupid. Anyway, right, we need to wrap that episode up. So that's episode 113, boys. Well done.
Yay.
We did it. Nobody knocked on Pavel's door and dragged him off to do some work.
Nope.
Did they even know you're there, Pavel? Let's be honest.
Well, I'm hiding. All the phones are off, so there you go.
Okay, right, we will give out all our internet details. So if you want to email us, you can do so at firstplayertoken@gmail.com. That's FIRST Player Token. You can find us on social media stuff. Just have a look for us. We're also on like YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher. We have a PSN community. Our Discord is discord.me/firstplayertoken. We have a Twitch. Everything like say FIRST except Twitter and Twitch, which are 1ST Player Token.
Once Player Token.
Thank you, David. And we are part of the Podnose Network,
the UK's leading entertainment podcast network.
Wow, that was amazing.
Yeah, very smooth. And Euan's not here to feature.
No, sorry, he did not.
Did he leave any notes?
No.
He didn't leave any notes.
Did you leave me any notes?
Yes.
Surprisingly, no, he did not.
Euan's gone off to Sweden, in case anyone's wondering where he is. But he did not leave any notes behind.
No, maybe he'll bring us back some dime bars.
Oh, yeah.
I hope so.
I think it's in Sweden they have the plop bars, isn't it?
Oh, maybe. That sounds like a Swedish thing.
Okay, we will be back next week with an episode which has been undecided. Maybe another video games episode. It could be a board games episode. Definitely I'm going to go and play some board games this weekend. So there's a high possibility it could be a board games episode next week. Cool. But until then, thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.